Oh, hello. Time for today's message from the Morning Man. Ifwa was hungry. It wasn't an unfamiliar feeling to her. She was almost always hungry. Her parents would have fed her if she had been at home, but she wasn't at home. She was in boarding school. Grandma had spent good money to send her there, so she dared not show ingratitude by asking for money to buy food as well. No. She just wanted to study as hard as she could to make her grandmother proud. But she was hungry. Studying on an empty stomach was hard. Maths was complicated enough after a hearty dinner, but Esther hadn't eaten for 2 days. It was a pity, though, when there was so much fresh food at home. Yam, kontomire, plantain, tomatoes, eggs, fish. Just thinking about it made her all the hungrier. Now that weekend, Ifwa went home to visit her parents, and on her way back to school, she brought along some fresh produce. The jeers and taunts of her schoolmates as she crouched over a makeshift hob to cook every day was the least of her worries. Her biggest concern was the fact that most of her fresh produce would often go bad before she had a chance to cook it. With time, she figured out that if she ground the tomatoes and then parboiled her plantains and greens, smoked her fish all in advance, and then packed them airtight, not only did they last longer, but they took less time to cook. Ifwa now had the time and strength to study just as hard as her classmates. The results were phenomenal. In 1936, Ifwa won a scholarship to Achimota School. She was now in the big leagues. But instead of savoring her achievements, Ifwa was worried about what to do for food now that she was so far away from home. Her schoolmates were rich kids, children of diplomats and British expats with larders full of all manner of foreign goodies. Ifwa spent ages marveling at the exotic jars of marmalade and tins of sardines in her schoolmates' chop boxes. How was it that the white man could make these foods last long enough to travel by ship from England to Ghana, and she couldn't make her kontomire last from Peki to Accra? Well, if there was anything Ifwa could do well, it was adapt. Her parents hadn't named her Esther for nothing. Before long, she had started making marmalade and orange juice using the sweet local oranges. They tasted so good that her mates started buying from her. And soon, the teachers joined in, and by the time she graduated with a Cambridge School certificate in 1941, Esther Ifwa Nkulenu had a contract to supply Achimota School with enough marmalade and orange juice to feed all their staff and students. Now, by 1949, Esther had a roaring enterprise. She was the first Ghanaian to run a formal food processing business in this country. With sponsorship from Achimota, Esther traveled to study cooking in London and food preservation at Bristol University. When she returned, she immediately put her skills to use, protecting local food producers from the cheap competition of imported food. 1 year after independence, Esther organized the first ever Made in Ghana exhibition in Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah noticed her efforts and pushed her to stand for president of the Federation of Ghana Industries. And that was how Esther Nkulenu, who we now know as Esther Oklu, started an illustrious career of public service. Now, most people find it hard enough to run a small business, but Esther Oklu successfully managed and grew Ghana's biggest food processing company for many years, while holding several public offices at the same time. Now, through the 50s, 60s, and 70s, she served as executive chairman of the National Food and Nutrition Board, advisor to the Council of Women and Development, a member of Ghana's National Economic Advisory Committee, and a member of the Council of State in the Third Republic of Ghana from 1979 to 1981. Now, throughout the 80s, Esther devoted herself to the economic empowerment of Ghanaian women. She promoted the availability of credit for women as a founding member and the first chairperson of Women's World Banking. And that was from 1979 to 1985. By the time she died of pneumonia in the year 2002 at the age of 83, the hungry girl from Peki had made such an impact not only in the Ghanaian food processing industry, but also in the economic lives of women around the world. She had evolved from the girl who struggled to feed herself into the woman who fed the nation. This Thursday morning on Ghana Week, we celebrate Esther Oklu, a great Ghanaian. My name is Kojo Yankson, and what good is my personal success if I can't make it a national blessing? Good morning, Ghana.